Nick, I know Joel obviously not playing tonight, but with resting on the front half of a back to back, just the his ability to come back and play whatever it was 4 or 5 games in a row. Just I know he's dealing with multiple things right now, but maybe what have you guys learned about what what needs to be done to like consistently have him on the floor? You know what I mean? Just since he came back from Indy the second time.
Well, I think I think probably the main issue would be that the knee's doing better and feeling better and is okay. The other stuff, the
Yeah.
face fracture, no, whatever, in the foot and stuff, that's just, stuff that's happening along the way and can't really predict any of that kind of stuff, right? So, mainly just that he is, I think, also not only is he out there playing, he's moving much better, obviously, right? In all facets, and then the other key to that too, when he gets to string up 4 or 5 games in a row, like you mentioned, his conditioning is also going to improve. And again, it's just hard to get in shape unless you're playing, and he's run some long, 35-minute games. That's getting up there, and he's run some long stretches too, some 12-minute stretches plus. So those all help in conditioning.
Just with who you do have tonight, sort of what are the biggest keys there now? Just as far as I know we've talked about Paul finding his shot more. Just what are you looking for in terms of all of that tonight?
Well, we got a little bit of a mystery going on here. We still got a few,
Yeah.
3 or 4 guys getting checked out. So what we do get to, we'll go from there. I mean, listen, I think that we've played a lot without Joel. Took us a while to kind of figure out to play a little bit better. Obviously, he's been back. He's been, a big part of what we're doing. So now hopefully we can find some of that stuff that we do have some experience with tonight. But obviously you mentioned Paul. Obviously Paul, Tyrese are our main guns. But we also are going to need, it's one of those ones where we're going to need everybody to chip in. Yeah.
Coach, the splits from the other night, shooting from the floor, 3 point territory from the free throw foul line stands out a lot, though. But what's been working for your team while they're on this 4 game winning streak?
Well, probably the main thing for us is we just kind of figured out a little bit of consistency, barring injuries with some rotations. Who's playing where? Who's how we're subbing. Got in a pretty good groove, and then it got a little bit jostled the other night. But again, we've got a lot of experience with a lot of different lineups. But we think we feel like we know what we're doing when certain guys are in the game with each other a lot more than a month ago, right, or even longer ago. Um, and then mostly I think that again, barring the odd game every 4 or 5 games, that our defense has been so much better, right? That we just have been. I don't know. We created a bunch of turnovers the other night. We've been some of those shot splits are pretty good because there's some pick sixes in there. 3 or 4 of those help your shooting percentage pretty quick where you steal and go get a layup. So hopefully those can be there tonight.
And
Hit the floor. Yeah.
you're bringing up the defense, as you mentioned earlier, with Kelly,
Yeah.
getting 8 steals. I think he had 6 in the first half.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That is kind of part of the consistency that I think that you're looking for. Is that correct?
Yeah, the three wing lineup of Kelly, Caleb, and Paul has taken a minute to kind of fit together, but it's fit together now, and both of those three guys are all feeding off each other. I think as far as switchability, versatility, pressure, deflections, creating turnovers, all those things. Yeah.
To stay on that train, I mean, I know that aggressive style has always been your MO as a coach, but going back to when did that become your philosophy as far as like this is how I want to play and this is we want to create that havoc, we want to force those turnovers, and then how do you go about just day to day continuing to instill that, preach that, drill it, which just with the guys to create that physically and mentality wise, I guess.
I think it was 2007.
Okay. You remember the exact day? No, just.
It's a snowy day
It was
in
2006,
London.
2007,
Yeah.
somewhere. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just decided at some point that, kind of seriously, right in that
Sure.
area of time that we did want to be a teams to play aggressively, right? And kind of decide, let's say, well, where does that start? And to me, it always started with ball pressure. Now, when you do that, it creates some other issues, right? So figuring out how the rest of the defense maps out, if that's going to be kind of like your number one thing, was kind of the next challenge back in those minor league days, right? But I forgot the rest of your question now.
Just
I'm
how
so,
you
I'm
go
so
about-
focused on thinking about where. What was it?
Just how you go about drilling that every day,
Oh,
whether
yeah,
it's
so,
actual
yeah,
drills, whether
yeah.
it's just instilling the mentality, just what that takes
Yeah,
to
that's-
play that way.
Yeah, that's just there's a word that we like to use called accountability, and we just try to show you when you're doing it and when you're not correctly, and when you're not, which asks you to not do that anymore.
Very
And
polite,
try to
I'm
get
sure.
those percentages up of when you're doing what we're all trying to do, but it does it is accountability, and it's really on the players to kind of start holding each other accountable, and they do a pretty good job of that.
Coach, you had Kyle and DeMar in Toronto. Can you just describe what that relationship was like and what they meant at that time to that team?
Yeah, so obviously they're very close. Everybody knows that, well publicized. But I got there in 2013, right when Rudy got traded. So and we were kind of off to a rocky start. Can't quite remember how many games, 10 or 13 into the season. Rudy gets traded, and then we got, it's from here. I think we got like 4 guys from SAC actually. We got 4 guys in the trade, and then all of a sudden we had a bench. We got Vasquez and Chuck Hayes and John Salmons and anybody remember the 4th guy? I'll just do that. Pat Patterson. Right, Pat Patterson. So, and all those guys,
Good memory.
yeah, all those guys like immediately were in our rotation. So we just like flipped our season. But what happened is it kind of cleared things up, kind of just for Kyle, who was running the show. He was always, should I throw it to Rudy? Should I throw it to DeMar? Like almost, but then all of a sudden it became the kind of DeMar's going to be our number one guy, and Kyle, who was just kind of a guy at that point, became kind of like our number 2 scorer. And then all those other guys we got from SAC became, these role players that kind of fit together and things like that. So that's kind of started, and we ended up winning 48 games that year and going to the playoffs. So that really started their kind of synergy on court that year, 2013. And then there was a lot of, I don't know, 52, 55, 58, a lot of good seasons up there with those 2 guys leading the way, and they were amazing. Yeah, they were amazing.
Coach, could you talk about some of the early season struggles and who were some of the louder voices in the locker room player-wise that helped you guys navigate that?
Talk about we weren't very good. We weren't very healthy. It was, we weren't playing very well, all those things. So we were struggling. Listen, I think everybody, I think obviously we got some veteran guys, Kyle and Paul and Joel and even some other guys that are been around the league a while, and between those guys and the coaching staff, we knew we needed to get to work. That the only real way we were going to get out of it was by putting in work, and we started having lots of practices, lots of really long practices, and lots of really tough practices, and that's translated to the court, and we start playing better. We'd win one, lose one, but we could sense we were playing better, right? And then we'd get a little healthier, and they've kind of continued some of the habits from practice of carrying on to the games.
Last one, guys. You go, Tom.
I was talking to Adem at shoot around because this is kind of one of his sort of a bit of a homecoming when he came over from Turkey. Yeah, just when that's sort of a rite of passage for every rookie, like playing your first game like in the place that's maybe closest to where you're from or grew up or went to college or something like that. Just is that something you ever have to be cognizant of as a coach? Just the extra people that might be there. Do you have to have a conversation, or is that just you trust the guys to handle the extra juice that might come with that?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like to, if I can. I mean, this is winning's our business, right? But if there's a way to get a guy in and in his hometown and get him out, get him some run in front of his people. We always would always probably have that in the back of our mind, or at least as an option in the game. I told you the other night I was going to use him and didn't end up using him. I'm planning on using him tonight, so hopefully he can show out for his people.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the game.